Hey guys, how we doing? Darren Starr here, coach with 5 Star Physique and also host of the Drop Set podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. So we're doing a little bit of meal prep here today, and I want to show you what I'm doing and why. So what we are going to be doing is cooking up some ground chicken here, specifically with the idea of having this for breakfast. So my situation is such that I'm in a cut right now, preparing for a photo shoot, and we're getting to the point where it's kind of crunch time, so we're starting to pull out some options. And so my coach wanted me to ditch my post-workout protein shake. Fair enough, okay. And just trying to reduce artificial sweeteners, etc. And so I replaced that with basically a copy of my first meal, which was eggs and egg whites. Started to mess with my stomach a little bit, too much. So she said, dial back on that, let's replace it with something really easy. I'd been going through this entire prep without chicken or fish of any kind, just because I got so sick of chicken in the months and months leading up to this. I'm like, I'm gonna do this whole prep chicken free. So that dream died, however. So now I'm doing ground chicken for breakfast, but I wanted to cook it up in such a way that it was actually going to be appealing first thing in the morning. So if you're looking for a different option, I'm going to show you what I do here and we'll see how it works. So the big thing for me is what you add to this thing in order to make it palatable in the morning. Because if I just did chicken breast in the crock pot or something like that, it's just, it's pretty much, to me, it's gross any time of day, but in the morning it's like, no, I just can't do it. So ground chicken, and what I'm actually going to do here is make like a chicken sausage kind of thing. So it's really simple. You will only need to add a couple things to it in order to make it happen. So what I'm doing is cooking up 4 pounds at a time. Just throw them all in here. This is 98.2 ground chicken, so nice and lean, 4 pounds of it. And so the one thing about when you're doing mass protein prep and you're trying to season it is we will always under season it, because you underestimate how much stuff you need to actually have flavor that is detectable in 4 pounds of this stuff. So you need to be fairly generous with your portions on some of these seasons. So this is a stainless steel pot, so I put a little bit of water in the bottom just to prevent it from sticking and making it easier to clean up. So I'd recommend doing that. We're going to add a handful of things here. So we're going to start with just some garlic powder. And again, what you'll notice here is I'm going to be very generous with this stuff. And realistically, I'll probably end up adding more of this throughout once I get a sense for, as it cooks up, how it smells. So again, 4 pounds, so you can be generous with this stuff. Let me angle this thing down just a little bit here so you can get a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on here. Next up, we've got some Trader Joe's Everyday Seasoning. This does just really go well on pretty much everything. Adds a little bit of a peppery kick to it, which is kind of nice. Now, one thing I do is I am a salt fanatic. I love salt. So I actually don't put any salt in this directly, and instead when I portion it out for each meal, I will salt that individual meal instead, just to make sure I get enough so that it's to my liking. Next, we've got some crushed red pepper flakes. And again, this is, that ain't gonna cut it. We're just gonna remove the lid and we're just gonna shake it on there. Again, being fairly generous with it, this adds a little bit of hotness to it, a little bit of a kick, not a whole lot. So once again, it's not like cayenne pepper or anything. You can be fairly generous with that. And then the magic ingredient, what makes this work if we're trying to make like a sausage thing, is of course fennel seeds. So you can see how much is left in this bottle right here. We're just going to use all that. And I know about what this should look like here, so let me take the camera so you can get a glimpse of what's going on in the pot here. So you can see those seeds just kind of sitting on top right there like that. And I'd say, that's not bad. That's not bad, but we can be a little bit more generous than that as well. So thankfully, I've got some backup fennel seeds here. I'm going to throw those in. There we go. That's looking better. So it's one of those things where this is what really provides that sausage flavor. So it's hard to overdo it with that. So, and that's pretty much it. So we've got the garlic powder, we've got the crushed red pepper, everyday seasoning, fennel seeds. That's it. And then we just mix it up. We let it cook. You brown this stuff. The water that's in the bottom is going to cook off. So on the burner, I've got this set for about a 6 out of 10. I'm going to let it go until it's nice and brown, and then I'm going to reduce it to a simmer and let it sit for a little while there. So most of this, I just barely attend it, just kind of stir it up, make sure that, you know, the uncooked bits on the top, they get mixed in with the stuff that's on the bottom. I don't want things sticking to the pan. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, one other thing that we should talk about is what happens when you actually are ready to dish this up and serve it. So like I said, I love to add salt to it, a whole bunch. The other things that really make this work, I'm a big mustard fan, so I add a little bit of stone ground mustard, and then also just traditional yellow mustard as well. So 2 variants of that. Really gives it a little bit more of a kick, a little bit of tang to it, which is nice. And it really complements the fennel seeds that kind of promote that sausage type flavor. And then the other thing that I do just for a little bit of bulk and volume is I add some of my free veggie mix here. So this is celery, white onion, and then a mixture of green, red, and orange pepper that I've cut up into small little pieces there. So a handful of that on top. Realistically, I do a little handful on a bowl. I do like 6 ounces of this. And a handful of those veggies, it adds a nice little change in texture, a good crunch, just to complement, you know, the raw protein here. And it realistically, it adds up somewhere between like 10 and 12 calories per serving. So it's not really worth logging or tracking. I do just because I'm a details guy and a little bit of a freak. But that's it. So I'm gonna let this cook for a little bit, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. And yeah. Okay, so it has been probably about 20-25 minutes. I don't think we needed all that time. I was on the phone talking. So things are looking good here though. So I'm gonna show you this, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not gonna look very impressive, but it's all about the smells. So one thing I didn't mention earlier is I do like to season it and put everything in there early on in the process before it starts to brown up and get cooked, just because the flavor kind of gets in there a little bit deeper when you do that rather than adding it after the fact, like brown it and then add. I think if you add all this stuff in earlier, it just turns out a little bit better. And I can tell just from the smell in here, I finally got the right amount of garlic powder in here. I can actually smell it. So this is not gonna be bland. And I always tell people, you know, if your food is bland, that's on you, because it shouldn't be. So just coming in for a closer look here, you can see, like I said, it doesn't look like much, but it is, I'm gonna tell you, it's pretty good stuff. So this goes really well. Like I said, I put it in with the 2 mustard variants, veggies, and then I usually serve that up with cream of rice as well. So it's a good comprehensive breakfast. It's a good way to switch it up. So chicken, non-traditional breakfast source, but when you cook it up like this, it really feels appropriate in the morning. So I would encourage you to give it a shot, leave a comment, let me know what you think if you get a chance to try this yourself.